All right. All right. Good evening, everybody. We're on night one of our discussion about making change. And for our introduction, we are going to hear from everybody, their name and kind of what they do art-wise, and then share with us one piece or one work. And it can be something that they can look at or hear or feel or remember that represents them, something that they really see themselves in. And who wants to start us off? We already heard from Samel. Yeah.
Right.
All right, Catherine.
I will, because I got just funny that you would have this on your mind. So I'm getting ready for my puppet projects. So I'm going through all my different puppets and refreshing them and making better costumes. So this is definitely an art project that I don't know that it represents me, but it's hard to make marionettes that don't have personalities of some kind. So I'm making a better outfit for her out of a bunch of scrap fabric. So that's what I've been working on. And it is very fun to make marionettes, and it's just something that brings out everyone's most whimsical side. I'm sure that there are some people who are afraid of marionettes, like they're afraid of clowns, but most people find them delightful. So this is my current obsession.
And we saw your self-portrait as a form of marionette or puppet.
Yes,
didn't we?
true. It's art that moves.
Great. Great. Joy, how about you?
I'm Joy, and I'm a singer-songwriter and a voice teacher. And I guess I have to say the latest project that really feels like it's me is our Star City Circle Singing project, because it's interactive. Like, we're getting people to sing together, people who are singers and people who are not singers. And it's like, I don't know, it's just like reviving and connecting and fun. It's just a different way for people to experience music together, rather than like the performers over here and everybody else just shut up and listen.
Great. Thank you, Joy.
What's
Yeah, that's
that?
great. Thank you. Yeah. Brett.
Yeah, I know this isn't quite what you were thinking of, but I've only been teaching at studio school for about a year and a half or so. I paint mostly landscapes, a few other things, but primarily that, in oils and acrylics and watercolor. And they wanted me to teach oil over there. And one of my first students was Kathy Highsmith, very nice lady, very serious. She ended up taking a second class with me. And when we were at the municipal building, for the last little presentation, I noticed that she had done a painting in the event of Dorian Clowers, who I also know, who owns Present Time. I just thought that was great. It's just nice to see her out doing stuff, taking her work.
Yeah, oh, that's a beautiful way to look at it. Teaching, you see yourself out in the works of other people. Yeah. Thanks, Brett. Corey.
Hey everyone. I write the newsletter for anybody who doesn't know, and this is the very device that I do my drawings on in the middle of the night on Sunday. I sit right here and watch YouTube for inspiration and stay up all night. And as far as stuff that I'm working on is I'm going to be building an art mouse head for the Daisy Art Parade. And give me just a second, I'll go get what it's being built. So this will be the art mouse head, and it's just got a lot of paper mache and cardboard to go, but this is the form that I'm going to start with.
Excellent. We've been watching some forms emerging with our entry too, surprising things. That's terrific. Helen Dean.
Unfortunately, I'm Helen Dean and I'm part of the Arts Commission. I don't have anything artistic that I'm working on right now, so I apologize for that.
You don't have to be working on it now. You can be something you did a long time ago.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
Well, I know you put yourself into everything you do, so and I'll be seeing a lot of you on Thursday.
Oh, yes, but I'm enjoying being part of the group. So thank
Good.
you.
Thanks, Helen. Molly Kernan. Oh, you're muted now.
Okay,
There
am
you
I good now?
Yep.
Okay, I'm Molly. I am kind of a mixed media artist, but I like to paint. I have a recent piece that kind of, let me scooch back to it. So that's probably a painting that kind of sums me up. I have all my duck friends in there in the strawberry patch. So there we go.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
God, I love the colors.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, it's kind of, my art is like trying to share a slice of my joy in life and show how I see things sometimes. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Phoenix.
Yes. Hello. So I'm Phoenix Keesey, and I am assisting right now with the Dreamin' Big art program over at Lansdowne, and that's been a joy. And this is a piece that I made. I don't know if it's going to show up with the background the way it is, but I don't know. Can you see that? No, it's not going to work. Hold on. I got to change my background somehow, I think, maybe. Is how I got to do that. Oh gosh. I don't even know how oh, okay. Hold on, I got it. I figured it out. I feel so fancy. Okay. I did a fancy thing. I did a fancy thing. So I'm not great at Zoom. So this is actually a piece that I was experimenting with to try to experiment with lighter and darker colors. And when you get closer to it, you can see there's some lighter details. And so I was trying to give a little depth to my painting, I think. But mostly I just took paint and I just went nuts on a blank piece of paper is really mostly what that is. So anyways.
Thank you, Phoenix. Yeah,
Yes.
Brian.
Hi. I think a lot of you know what I'm working on right now, so I might change it up. So right in front of me, because Doug wanted to see it, this is probably backwards, but it's my Dante Inferno class. So that's what I'm reading now for my students. And I saw a photograph of an old painting that I might dig up too, if this works, because I hate technology. You see that?
Yeah.
That's one of my older paintings. And what they have in common is they both seem kind of very spiritual, if not religious, which is not how I think of myself. But it's funny that as I was desperately grasping around to have something to show, the two things that I see make me think differently about myself today. So I thought I'd just leave it at that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Katie.
Are we sharing creative works we're
Yeah,
focusing on?
if you could, if there was something that represented you or something that you've worked on that you feel you can see yourself in, and it doesn't have to be a, physical work of art. It could be pretty much anything.
Yeah, well, I am going to be hosting my mentor here in Roanoke for a grief ritual in June. June 1st and 2nd, and I've been working really hard to get a location set, and this is something that's supported through the Arts Commission through an artist action grant, so we'll be sharing more information out with y'all, but I definitely see myself in that work. It's something that I have a calling to do for myself, just from losses I've experienced personally, and as an opportunity for the community as well.
Thank you, Katie. Robin Mitchell. And
Hey everybody. I am currently, I would say currently working on building a more connected Northwest alongside Doug and some others that are on this call. And I would say something that's kind of been a pathway to that is last year we did a mural at Eureka Park, which I feel kind of represents what we want to convey throughout this mission, which is unity and bringing people together. And that's something that I'm also hoping to do this summer at Eureka Park on the Juneteenth, at the Juneteenth Festival. So I would say what I've built or something that I'm building is just continued connections to push forward with building a more resilient and connected community that hopefully my nieces and nephews and godchildren and all the babies coming up behind me can love and appreciate when they get older.
Thanks, Robin. Polly.
Hello. I've got a funny internet, so I don't know if you can hear me. I have been with Jane. She'll talk more about that. So most of my items for the parade are stuffed in the car. We did a "Won't You Be My Neighbor" banner sign, and working on the fish and goddess. And I don't know if you can see, this is one of my personal works, I guess. We're working on a painting of the market building, and these ideas of paraders and people who go to the streets and share our messages with the world. So yeah, lots on the plate.
Great. Thanks, Polly.
Well, I don't know if any of that came through.
Yeah, it did. I think we got most of it. Yeah, thank you. Susie.
Hi, I'm Susie. I am a dance and theater maker, and I try and use dance and theater when I can as a community and cultural organizing tool. I think a project where I felt probably the most like myself, I was recently doing an internship with Mixed Blood Theater up in Minneapolis, which is an art and activist theater. And I was in charge of using the election in Minneapolis was coming up, and we were trying to do legislative art activism, and we had organized abortion was on the ballot, and we organized a script called Row by Lisa Loomer. And my job essentially was to produce a whole lot of abortion advocate partners so that they could come in and talk about the work that they were doing. And I was trying not to fangirl at some of the people that were, I got to be on a panel and do talkbacks around the show. There's a group called Gender Justice that I am just, I swoon over. I just think they're so cool. And they had won a lawsuit against the state of Minnesota about 2 years before that. And they were just doing some like really powerhouse work. And I think I got 9 partners on board for that show. And my crowning accomplishment was getting Gender Justice involved. And my job was to put together a series of talkbacks using the script as a launch pad to talk about the current state of advocacy, specifically abortion advocacy in Minneapolis. And it was really successful and very scary and a lot of fun. And I would say that when I am scared I know I'm doing something right. And most of my projects these days are scaring the crap out of me. So that's one of my projects where I felt most in my element. Thanks.
Thank you, Susie. Jane.
Hey everybody, I am sweaty and full of paint, so I'm off camera. Doug, is it an option to share screen real quick?
Sure it is. I just have to learn how to do it. Let me see here. I know how to do it. Do. And do. Okay, you should be good to go.
Okay, so this has been a couple big projects. This was for Isaac Burrell Day at the Burrell Center yesterday. And can you see that?
Yeah.
Awesome. And so we had visitors come in, and there was an open house, and they could tour the building and learn about Dr. Isaac Burrell and his legacy. And then we had the folks write on little sticker hands what their interaction with the Burrell Center was, and that's at the end. Can you see that? It's like got hands all over it. The oldest one was a lady from she was born there in 1935, and that was pretty cool. And this is just, you see the video?
No, all we see is the picture. Yeah.
Oh man, I was gonna show you the video, but yeah, we had about 15 kids and about 5 artists at the Melrose Library today, building for 3 separate crews for the parade. So yeah, it was really a successful evening. And Amy was there, and she had an open house for the adults about art space, and she engaged 3 creative women with that. So it's been a really great day.
Fantastic. All right, and I think we've got everybody online. And then if you, let's see, if you can just stop the share on the screen, I guess, Jane. And then we're gonna come into the room. All right. You're up.
I'm going first.
Yeah.
I'm Cody Statler. I'm a graphic designer, and I guess if I had to pick a piece, I mean, speaking of art space, I might pick the art space poster that I designed. And there's definitely some of me in there. There's some Brian in there. There's some Doug in there, which I think is really cool because the poster is about building a community, but the poster itself was kind of communal in its inspiration.
I should tell you that William Penn and I were down in Floyd at Charlie Brower's Floyd Art Dialogue, and somebody just like in the middle of the meeting said, "Who does your graphic design?" Looking at the art space. So yeah, so that's a big compliment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Rachel Ann. I'm kind of a jack of many trades artist. Right now I am focusing on my writing, and I am involved with the Floyd Poetry Festival, the Little River Poetry Festival up in Floyd every June. And I'm a part of their performance group this year. And so from June until December last year, and by that I mean mostly like December and January, I wrote poems for this performance ensemble, and I'm getting my packet tomorrow of like everybody's poems so I can start practicing for our performance, because we're going to be performing in Richmond and then again in Floyd. So I've never done anything like this before, so I'm excited.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear more about that. It sounds like an interesting model.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I enjoyed that. That's the best part of the meeting. And then I do want to share something. At the last meeting, that was really helpful. At the last meeting, we had a conversation around how we collectively share the message that Roanoke is an arts community. And by that, I mean a place where we are actively using the arts to create the community that we want to see. Let me share the screen it got me, there, the last comments got me thinking that, we're putting a lot of thought into things in different ways, but we're not pulling it all together necessarily. And so I want to start doing some thinking about that whole kind of collective arts ecosystem. So I did a little thinking this weekend based on it. And I've got here some actors in Roanoke's creative and cultural ecosystem. And this is just one way to start thinking about it. I wasn't sure. At first I was thinking, well, maybe I should think about the ways people are acting and what they're doing. And I think that's going to be the next round of thinking. But first I started just with some actors in Roanoke's creative and cultural ecosystem. And so I put on the left side, artists and creators in the blue. So artists, makers, creatives, culture bearers, individuals who are engaging in the arts in some way. Then I also included creative sector businesses. So you think about hairstylists, cooks, for-profit galleries, architects, even anything kind of creative, graphic designers, certainly. And then innovating businesses. So what's that leap around creativity and applying creativity in whatever field you're in? Is there some connection there? And these are all a big question. So it was just a way for me to kind of think through. And then arts organizations. So all the associations and networks, clubs, cooperative galleries, ways people are coming together around the arts. And then more formally, nonprofit arts and cultural organizations. And very interestingly, that presentation we got last time was kind of emerging from the arts and cultural organizations who were thinking about this. We are thinking about this around the table in our own way, in our own world. And eventually I'd like to have some framework in which we bring all of this together. The third area is community partners. So neighborhoods and communities, and we're doing a lot of thinking around neighborhoods and more, I hope, in the next few years. The way we're using the arts to help people engage in their neighborhood, the way we're using the arts to even get started on neighborhood planning and dreaming about what our neighborhoods could be, and investing in our own places to make them work even better for us. Alongside that are community development partners and institutions who can work alongside us. And then the media, storytellers, the marketing, the tourism folks, the promotional partners that are kind of out there that we rely on to help us get word out. I'll put this in the notes and kind of let you sit with that a little bit. And we don't have to go very deep into it tonight, but I think we're going to keep coming back to this over the next, few months or so, as we're starting to explore this and bring the kind of model together in our own minds, how we're thinking about creating a strong, vibrant community with these different aspects. Any questions or thoughts about that before we push onward?
Doug, I think the larger categories make a lot of sense, as well as the subcategories, but this is a neat infographic.
So great, Katie, thanks. I certainly imagine that it'll change and evolve over time, because especially, get into a thoughtful spot and go, oh, but wait a minute, what about, yeah. And then as we start to talk about how these pieces work together, if we were, say, to do a project, sometimes when we apply these things, that's when we really see gaps in them or other ways to think about it. So we'll keep noodling over that over time. All right, but I want to say just how powerful that was, that conversation the other day. It was really helpful. And that's the kind of thing I want to keep thinking about. And then on to our main topic tonight. So we've got 3 nights where we're going to touch on this. We're not going to And I thought doing it iteratively would be helpful. That way we don't have to read the whole book at one time. It's not a long book, but sometimes it's helpful to break it up into chunks. So kind of go away and think about it and come back. And this book, I got it because, I don't know, I stumbled into it in some way and I got a copy and I read it and it made a lot of sense to me. And then I realized that Mr. Booth is very actively trying to advocate and share this information. So he's really happy to come pop onto a call with us next week. And then the third week, we'll do a little bit of wrap-up conversation. Each time we'll have some other conversations as well. But let me just open it up wide. What are some of any reactions or responses to the first 30 some pages? Oh, yeah. Is that Catherine?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, this book was really interesting to me because I feel like I kind of lived these, when he talks about when federal funding for arts in schools got cut, how people were having a hard time finding employment, all of those timely things that he talks about, I had no awareness of. I just knew it was really hard to find any work, so there's kind of like, I lived the experience of having to find a way to be an artist without a full-time job teaching art. So I think I actually kind of stumbled into this career without knowing there was a label for it. So I'm really appreciative of it. I think I have a lot to learn, but I feel like it really was very affirming that isn't just me struggling along trying to figure out a way to be part of my community and have the time to work on art projects when they came up as a freelance artist, but finding some part-time work that allowed me to have some ability to pay my bills. So I think his actual frank discussion about the lack of funding for artists outside of, public school teaching, what was one thing that just leaped out at me, that somebody understood how tricky this is. So I'm really happy to hopefully learn more as we move forward.
Thanks, Catherine.
I have some thoughts.
Hey, Joy.
Hi. First of all, I just love the idea that everybody's an artist. Not just the ones who are trained. Because that's something that we've been doing in our singing circles for years now, is encouraging everybody to express themselves, because we're all artists at heart. So I just love that message. And then the whole process of teaching artists, it's like when I got trained to teach English as a second language years ago, I had this brilliant mentor, and that is how he taught his classes. Like they were all like these fun activities. Oh my God, my cat's freaking out now. It's okay.
It's probably Catherine's cat.
He's very upset. Okay, you're good. Okay. But yeah, he would create these fun activities, scaffolding the steps to learn the building blocks of the language. And it was like, it was art that he was creating. And I learned how to teach that way, to teach English as a second language. So it's like, oh my God, this is so cool. So anyway, I'm very excited about this.
Thanks, Joy. Brett.
Yeah, the thing that kind of hit me most is how he uses art in kind of a sneaky way, although he seems kind of slim on the examples, specific examples, of getting people to see more than one solution as opposed to going to the solution right offhand. It's so nice. It's like, well, how many different ways can you think about this or see it? Instead of just like, what works right away, what do you think might work? And then you're done. So that was kind of nice. That was one of the things I took away from it.
Yeah, it's a little, I don't know, it takes a lot of pressure off to think there's not just one right answer, and this can be more generative and expansionary. Yeah. Phoenix.
Yeah, I think what it for me, it was sort of encountering a way of thinking that I was like, wow, this makes sense to me. Because I think I've employed that sort of mindset that he's talking about in other areas as an artist, but just like didn't know that that's who I was and what I was doing. But specifically with activism. And I really liked that part of the community work and thinking about grassroots work in sort of a different way. And it put community in a different lens, I think, for me in this really beautiful way where I was like, oh, wait a second, I can do this thing that I love, and also here's the ways that it benefits community structure building and grassroots building. So I don't know. To me, those like little light bulbs went off, and it really encouraged me when I stepped into community spaces to participate in art. So I really appreciated it.
Thank you, Phoenix. Jane.
So I like in particular that chapter that sort of looked at whose shoulders do we stand on as teaching artists, and he really brought in the WPA. I didn't realize it was 10,000 plus artists that were in the WPA to lift the nation out of the depression. But I've always loved that program. I've loved the artwork that came out of that program, and I really liked thinking of this work as connected to that sort of big picture.
Yeah. Thank you, Jane. Any thoughts here in the room?
Well, kind of to echo a little bit of what Catherine had said is I like how timely the book is. I kind of told you that when I first came in, but there's a little section in there about AI that I thought was really important. And how, you could get a book like this and be like, that's great, but it's 20 years later and none of that stuff really applies in the same way. But this feels like very present, very now.
Yeah.
I did have a question. This whole analogy of, like the object being the nouns and access to it being the verbs. I wasn't quite sure what I should be taking away from that specifically. I mean, it seemed a little vague to me. Maybe other people interpret it in different ways. I mean, it just seemed to me like the verbs were the actions of, interpreting created artwork. So the artwork of any kind, whether it be music or paintings or whatever, kind of stood on its own until somebody pushed it out there and interpreted it. I mean, is that kind of what everybody thought? I don't know.
Let's see from the group. How did you read that action versus verb piece? I think he referred to it as like one of his other books as well when he said that. So there's probably more there. But how did it folks in the group take that?
It's been a little while since I've read this, but I think that the verbs, like he talks in a couple different places about or at least what I got from it is process focus rather than product focus. Which I think is honestly kind of a radical idea in the system that we live in. Is very product focused. So the action, and I saw, this is not related to the book, but I saw a video today, I think, of somebody talking about AI art, it's a big debate right now, and how art is not, it's not the product, it's not the painting, it is the act of creating the thing, and the painting is just the artifact of the act of creating. So I think he kind of touches on that when he talks about verbs as opposed to nouns.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I feel like that's something that when you are teaching and you're basically just creating a space for other people to find their own creativity, you're not saying do this, do this, do this. So that process that's happening in these people, whether they're children or adults, it is an action. It is something that's happening. And usually it is the people who institutions that want a result. They want something that they can say, this was accomplished, you know, this was the product, whether it's the parents at the, you know what I'm saying? That often the kids or the people who are making the art, that's enough. We don't really need it to be valued or a product that can be hung on the wall or a competition that you win. And I think that's how I interpreted it, is it's the action, the creation, the space that's shared, the trust that's built, the, you know, the human connections that happen when you work together. Those are the actions, not just the product at the end of the, you know, experience. So that's how I interpret it.
That's a lovely way to look at it. Yeah. And Polly, let's see, Polly said, love the teaching artist descriptions. And Polly said, intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic were interesting words. Fun to think about the personal heart-centered focus for the sake of group. And then the purpose, which is heart-centered too, as personal creations, all active in the process of making. And Jane, you said you touched on it today. Was that today in the parade workshops?
Right, we're working on the parade workshop. You reach this point where, the kids are being so creative that they're no longer caring about what Larry's supposed to look like, and they're just painting. They're just creating. And, it starts to not look so much like Larry the Log Perch anymore. And it was like, remember, it's not the thing that we're making. It's the fact that we're here making it, that we're actually in community doing this thing together with this energy,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That, right there on that page 11, like somewhere he said, anyone who gets absorbed and creatively engaged in their work can tell you where artistry lives in their success. And I just love that, absorbed and creatively engaged. And we know how that feels, individually. And then what does it feel like as a group? Yeah. And what does that do to us as a group? Imagine they were finding out they were Larry the Log Perch. Hi, Katrina. We haven't got to say hi to you tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still actually reading my book. So I'll definitely yeah.
That's great. We'll be reading it for the next 3 weeks. Yeah. So
okay.
We're just getting started on it.
Cool.
Any other things that's jumped out at you?
I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but there was something in there about artwork is the difference between, like, in crafting anything and something being good enough or something being exceptional. And I thought that was really meaningful because it shows the importance of, like, putting your heart into something and making it more than just good enough, making it something that's really interesting and that, means something.
Yeah. Wow. And there's, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm also struck by some of these ideas directly. Some of these ideas are also in direct opposition to the way in which I was taught with art, and how so much of my recent journey with art has been a departure from formal training and fancy degrees. And I think about that when I think about art as a cultural practice versus a commodification, right? It's something that all of my background really, I think I still struggle with a little bit personally with my own practice and with the ability to just experience a piece without going into like feedback mode or critique mode, or it's just so hardwired from the teachers that I I experienced in so many different forms that I'm just like really struck by that and I appreciate that it's for people who are teaching because that was not my experience. And I would say that the forms in which I come from, the dance and theater worlds, are rooted in criticism and rooted in quality control and rooted in really harsh, like, I can't tell you the last time I was able to just go to a theater piece and sit down and just watch and enjoy it. And I think there's a reclamation that happens with these ideas of artists being able, specifically dance and theater, that's where I come from. So I speak specifically for those things, of just being able to enjoy things again. Without there being the need to be the smartest person in the room. So I'll just offer that as a reflection.
Thank you, Susie. Yeah.
Actually, I find this way, I'm sorry, I find this way of teaching really helpful, considering the culture, you know, as it is. There's so many people now, or there seems to be such a large percentage of the culture that wants to tell people how to think about things and what specifically they should think and what's good and what isn't good. Whereas this actually encourages people to analyze it themselves, and it makes them happier people because it gets their brain working. And, you know, it's, you know, it talks about World War II and prison camps, what have you, where people are basically, you know, they've got to think a certain way, or they feel like they have no hope because their brain just isn't engaged with anything. And they work on art projects and what have you. That gets the brain working, and suddenly they just kind of see the bigger picture in the wider world. And it just, I don't know, it's kind of what we're born for, is to think. And it gives them the opportunity to do that, just makes them happier people, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think back in a lot of classes where I memorized stuff without thinking. Yeah. And then on page 7, sorry, it's page 14, but there's 7 major goals of teaching artistry. If you got the book in front of, I should say too, if you don't have the book, we've got more copies coming, but there are 5 or I think 5 more sitting in my office. Just come by and pick one up if you don't have one yet. But what's the purpose of teaching artistry? If you have the book in front of you and one of these jumped out at you, do you want to offer it to the group?
I would say number 2, to enhance the life of communities. I mean, that's the Daisy Art Parade in a nutshell. I mean, they use the example of Mardi Gras, but I was like, that's what, you know, Brian's doing with the parade. So that one really stood out.
Yeah.
Thinking about the work at the intersection of arts and food with the Roanoke Food Shed Network, and the goal 4, to achieve goals important to non-arts institutions, and how the arts can help us move forward different initiatives in our community, like food access or farming, farm food production. So that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I agree. 4 and 6 definitely stood out to me and got me thinking about art as like not only, you know, the catalyst for change, but as like a means for deepening our understanding of the world and like offering up more flexibility in interpretation. Like it deepens our capacity to learn, like it changes the brain.
So the number 7 really, to me, feels important, to bring opportunities for people to make art themselves, to appreciate when they do get to see, and like we just recently had the Swoon exhibit, when you actually understand the processes that were used, and it makes you more engaged, and when you get a chance to see that kind of work. So to bring these opportunities outside of people who normally go to museums and galleries, so that when something is worth, making the effort to see it, there's a deeper appreciation and willingness to engage with art projects or art in the community if they've had a chance to do a collage or make a printmaking workshop or something like that. But I'm really feeling that, to make the effort to go out in the community rather than expecting people who don't have this experience or love of art making to suddenly just come and be part of the art scene. To me, that doesn't seem like makes sense. Like, people have to understand why this is something that's of value to them. So to offer it where people are rather than, does that make sense? That's what I get with that one, to make people feel more excited about art by actually being engaged in some way.
Yeah.
I'll jump in on Catherine's. I like that one too. I don't have it here in front of me, so full disclosure, I don't have the book. But it does occur to me that a few things like what Brett had mentioned too, is that so many people think that art is teaching, and I think it's really learning. I think the process is learning how to be open to the experience and why learning is so exhilarating. I think too often we think that being the teacher is exhilarating because you're the one disseminating information, but I find the learning much more exciting. And it's always hard to be the teacher trying to tell people like being the learner is actually the goal. But I think that might be kind of a combination of a few of those.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Number
I think
three.
for me, sorry,
Oh.
go ahead, Katrina.
Sorry. I think when I look at number three, and I hate to put Jane on the spot, but I have to at this moment, the impact political and social movements. Jane does things in a way that inspires me. And when she went to the city council meeting, I don't know if anybody tuned in to watch it, but she used her guitar to me, that was a form of art that she created a song as a movement. And to me, it just spoke to me. And I have this on my refrigerator. It says, "Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes." And I could tell, like, it could have probably been a nervous and fired up at the same time, but it really moved me. And it's just the way that she uses her art to, like, as a form of activism. I really admire that. And that number three resonates to that for me.
Thanks, Katrina. That is
Yeah.
definitely my wheelhouse. I was a little late for the 60s, to be a real hippie, but I've always aspired to that, So yeah, thank you. And I was terrified.
Oh, that's great. Wait, while we're on that number three, down at the bottom of the page, I'll read the sentence out loud because I know you don't all have it. It says, social justice is embedded in a teaching artist worldview, even in projects without stated goals of changing cultural and political realities, because all teaching artists' work embodies egalitarian fairness. The working environments they create model the communities they strive to bring into the world. What do you think about that? Does that ring true to you, or is that questionable?
I would have to say, for me, like, kind of on the same note that Brian was saying, I feel like when I am teaching, it's basically I have created a safe space for people to express themselves, and it's fun. But I think that I really love the way that that you don't have to have an agenda, but just creating a space where people can actually relax and find comfort of being engaged in a room together that's safe. So sometimes it is the preparation work, you're making the project, you've got the materials, you do have to do some thinking and teaching to make the project interesting and fun to be together. There's work you do, but as far as to me, the biggest, most important part is that that space is safe. That isn't a sense of competition or anybody's going to critique you and it's amazing how often people expect that. And you have to kind of work hard to go, this is just going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Like you really have to kind of baby people along to get started. And then they just go for it once they realize it is a safe and, nurturing environment. But I think that part, that you can create a little island of safety in any situation, that's been what I find has been the most of value when I'm consider myself as a teaching artist.
That's exactly what we experience in our circle singing, making it a safe space because people are afraid to be exposed and vulnerable, especially when it's your voice. You've been told as a kid, that you have a terrible voice or whatever. So yeah, it's like the same kind of thing. And I just wanted to add the last sentence that you left out, Doug, because I love this sentence at the end of that section that you read. Communities of active respect and kind appreciation. Communities of radical welcome. I just love that phrase. Radical welcome. Everybody's welcome.
Phoenix.
Yeah. So that actually stuck out to me a lot, number 3, but also number 1, I think did as well. And the part about number 3 that stuck out for me was the thought of being a person who, in whatever way, may be bringing new representation to the environment. I think just existing in the space, and I love what Catherine said about creating that space and holding space. And so I think that sometimes for me, it was occupying the space, right? That's part of what being a teaching artist is. And I love the idea of like learning is actually what I'm doing, right? I'm engaging the art with curiosity. I'm engaging the people with curiosity. And I think that when I show up in a space, that's going to attract people, especially if we're trying to be egalitarian and have these beautiful spaces that we create together. And for me, it drove my mind to picturing that kind of a space, right? Where we have like so many different kinds of artists and people and representation, just like how beautiful that would be. Which kind of drives me back to number 1, which is also the idea of the personal development and social capacities. But I was thinking of it on a personal level, like what a gift for me to be able to do something that develops other people, and then also like I'm developing myself in order to do this job. Like I just think that's really a beautiful picture of community.
Mm-hmm. And that only happens if you're approaching it by learning, like Brian said. Yeah. Any other thoughts that you want to leave folks with before we close out for tonight from the book?
Not really. It's just funny that in that same section, I'm thinking of all the artists I've met over the years, and I guess I always thought that artists were just of a certain type, and then there was kind of everybody else. But I think it's really more, whether you're an artist or anything else, it's based on kind of your worldview. Because I've met so many artists over the years from traveling and stuff, to all of this does not apply at all. They believe in creating stuff and winning stuff and making money, and they could care less about anybody else. They like to tell people what they're supposed to see, all the things that I can't stand. But they're there, and there's tons of them. So it's just kind of nice, to run into a bunch of people who think the same way.
I agree totally. It's about, it used to be, when we were indigenous people, that everybody was an artist and everybody danced and everybody did caveman paintings, right? but it's been commodified, you know, and given a price tag and taken away from the people. And I think a big part of our work is to give the art back to the people.
We're all nodding our heads here. Yeah.
I don't know if she got this quote from someone else, but Michelle Schock, who's a musician, said that music was too important to be left in the hands of professionals. I've always thought that was really good.
Yeah.
And I love Michelle Schock.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to capture Polly's comment here, page 32 on connecting art to solutions for social problems, and teaching artists are interested in people who are different from us. That is embedded. How we see the challenges or brainstorming as we move through the world, curiosity, boost learning. And then she said, yes, Catherine, taking it to folks where they have been or where they've been, or it's thrilling, and invite folks to museums and galleries and transport them there. And she said she can't wait until all of us here meet in person to experience some of the options represented among us. Brian's studio is so awesome, and circle singing is so cool, etc. I really appreciate spaces where that we know are consistently available. And yeah, I think a bunch of us are ready to kind of get into physical space together in some good ways. And I know it's happening every day as people are preparing for the Daisy Art Parade in smaller groups. There is so much great stuff going on. I'm not able to make it out to everything, and I'm lamenting that as well. And that great stuff has great people behind it, and those are you. So thank you for everything you're doing. And we're right at 7:58. Any closing comments for us? Any questions that are burning that you want to ask the author next week?
Can we send them to you, Doug, ahead of time?
You can just bring them in this session and ask them. But yeah, but we'll have the opportunity with them next week, and we're looking forward to it. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah.
Jazz hands.
Yeah, I can do that.
Hey you guys, I'm playing at Parkway Brewing Company Friday night. Y'all come out. It's Sage Fest. It's women of a particular age performing.
Yes, I'll be there. Yeah, Parkway Brewery, 5:30 to 8, I believe.
Yep, it's an early show because all us old ladies gotta go to bed.
Yep. And I know Pedro has his event next Wednesday, so I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people that want to do that. But if you have the ability and can make it down, Golden Cactus is beginning their midweek markets on next Wednesday with a birthday party for Mr. Rogers. So it'll be a community, you're welcome to the neighborhood. I can't remember the theme of Mr. Rogers' birthday party. So it'll be fun. I'll be there doing face painting and a couple of other friends with their various Mr. Rogers inspired art. So that'll be fun if you're out and about next Wednesday.
And Catherine, you have art talk on Monday too.
Oh, that's right. Thank you thank you, Brian. And Brian is one of my special guests. I'm like so excited for this one. We have some amazing artists that will be there to speak about what's going on. And Brian, we really hope we'll be able to share a little bit more excitement about the Daisy Art Parade for folks who are not part of this in-group. You know, we want to get the public. So feel free to invite people to this. If someone hasn't seen this exhibit, grab them and tell them to come. You know, the building's open all the time, you know, regular business hours, but this is a chance for after hours. You know, if you work downtown, bring more folks to see it. The whole exhibit is excellent, but it's going to be extra excellent because Brian's going to be there Monday.
And that's at 7, Catherine?
Yep, 6 to 7, 6 to 7.
Okay.
Katrina, you get to see Katrina's piece. You get to see Robin. Well, I don't know, Robin, if we still manage to get your piece back on the wall there. We'll have to talk about that another time. But Jane has worked there. I mean, if you haven't seen the whole show, it's definitely something you want to just come and hang out with us while there's some amazing artists there to talk to you all about why they did what they did for this show.
Yeah. Yeah, we're looking forward to it, and there's so much happening. And I gotta give a round of applause to Corey again for that newsletter. He's knocking it out. of the
Yeah,
park.
you're doing great.
Thank
Adding
you.
links, making it so easy. I'm really
Well, Doug has given me a lot of help on that, so thank you, Doug.
Oh, you're making it happen. And we got to meet the bunny. We got to meet the
Yeah.
bunny this.
Thanks.
Corey just reminds me then, we got the volunteer link open for Daisy Art Parade too. Corey checked it out this morning for me, so thanks. Ready for sign up.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, keep doing good things. See you
Thanks for the
soon.
reminder, Brian. I appreciate you making me. I'm sad.
No,
Anyhow,
you've
yeah,
been reminding me. Thank you.
yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you Monday for sure. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.